Check one, check two. All right, we are on. Give me just one moment. I'm going to see if I can view live chats. Oh yeah, here we go. Let me move this. Hello. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Francisco. Hi, Naya. Check two. All right. Oh, got to turn my volume down here. Getting a little feedback there. There's a little, there we go. Okay, cool. All right, now I'm going to make myself appear. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Facebook Live. My name is Ryan. I'm an interpreter with California State Parks. It is a Tributary Tuesday, Redwood Invasion edition. So I talk about salmon, as you know, on Tuesdays, talk about streams. We've been getting a lot of comments that people want to know more about redwoods and just see more about redwoods. And so we hear you. And so today, as much as I love salmon, I'm going to set that aside and talk a little bit more about redwoods today. And which is fine because I grew up in the redwoods. I spent my entire life in the Bay Area, coming up to Humboldt Redwood State Park, coming up to Prairie Creek Redwood State Park, and everywhere in between. And so it's been for me, it's been a lifelong sort of backdrop is these redwood forests. And for a lot of you as well, I see someone saying hi from Sonoma County, and that's where I was born. So happy to have you join us. Looks like that was Karen from Sonoma County. So awesome. And, you know, like redwoods for a lot of people are sort of this kind of a bucket list kind of destination, visiting the redwoods. And they only grow in a very small area of the world. So it's kind of this really special place that a lot of people kind of have on their list, along with the Grand Canyon and the Smoky Mountains and places like that, is places that they just want to see. And so I'm really happy to be able to provide that to you. Now, as you know, probably by the acoustics, that I am in a room. I'm talking to you from a green screen studio. This is the PORTS studio, so the Parks Online Resources for Teachers and Students studio. This is where we do our distance learning. This is where we do our home learning programs. This is where we've been doing a lot lately to serve a lot of students who are at home right now doing home learning. And it's been a great opportunity. And I've been in this studio working in this space for about 7 years. And so it's been great to be here. And it's been great to put it to use in different ways, including Facebook Lives. So I said we're going to talk about redwoods. We're going to talk specifically about these old growth forests. And I'm going to focus on Humboldt Redwoods State Park, which is the park that is pretty close to where this studio is. It's a little farther south of Eureka. And so let me just point that on the map where that is. Humboldt Redwood State Park is located on the northern end of California on the coast. We are about 12 hours drive north of Los Angeles, about 5 hours drive north of San Francisco. So pretty far away from what a lot of people think of as Northern California. And this is where you find the old growth redwood forests and some of our most important natural areas. You know, this is all part of the California State Park system. Humboldt Redwood State Park, Prairie Creek Redwood State Park, you name it. Lots of different parks that are here protecting the old growth redwoods. And old growth is a term that I'm going to bring up in just a minute, but old growth is different than second growth forest, which a lot of us maybe didn't realize the difference there. So we'll talk about that in just a moment, though. So this is where I'm located. Redwoods, we find them in the northern fog belt from the Oregon border all the way down to central California coast, and we find them mainly only growing near the coast, only about 30 miles inland and closer to the coast. So that's because of that need for fog and rain. It's a pretty rainy area here. We get anywhere from 50 to 100 inches of rain a year. And in addition to all that rainfall that we get here, we also get a huge amount of fog. So the summertime is our foggy time of year. And this is where you're going to hear about the people talk about the June gloom and things like that. That fog, those redwoods are collecting that fog on their leaves. Some of it is getting absorbed into the leaves themselves and into the tissue of the trees. And some of that's being dripped down to the forest floor. And that are the conditions that make our old growth forests so healthy and so so unique from the rest of California. So Today we're going to talk a little bit about these forests and from the perspective of how people have used them and how people, I posted a question there at the top there is, what would you do to protect what you love? And I asked that because the Redwood story is all about people putting their love to action. So the redwoods that we love, the redwoods that people come to visit, these old growth forests, wouldn't be here if it wasn't for people standing tall to protect what they love. And so I asked that question of you all to think about that just for a moment. Think about what is something or someone who's someone that you love, and how do you show that appreciation or that love or that sense of protection? How do you show that? And it doesn't always look like in some grand gesture. You know, when I think about the people that I care for the most, I've been thinking about that a lot lately in this time of COVID-19, is sort of thinking about the people I haven't gotten to see. And I think of my really close friends, sometimes people in my own community who I have not got to spend time with, or my family that's down in the Bay Area or up in Oregon and places like that where I haven't been able to visit. And when I think about that and how do I show my love for them, maybe I call them, maybe I send them a text, or maybe I just kind of reflect on how important these people are for me. So it doesn't have to be a grand gesture that we do to show what we love. But there are some people who have done some pretty epic things to show what they love, to show who they love and demonstrate that appreciation for people. So someone mentioned by visiting them as often as they can, which is definitely something that I intend on doing when I'm able to travel out of my area. You know, I think that it's hard for a lot of people to not be able to go and visit. People, a lot of us all are trying to protect other communities by trying not to spread any potential virus. And so we're staying in place and we're sheltering in place. And even though some of our parks are opening up and a lot of our state parks are starting to open up in day use, there's still some restrictions, and there's still warranted concerns that all of us have. You know, myself living in this area of Humboldt County with pretty limited medical resources, I get a little concerned if I start to see like lots and lots of people coming from out of the area, because I know that our medical infrastructure is pretty light. And so we want to definitely think about the communities that we're coming and visiting. That said, it's hard to not be able to go and visit people. And that's definitely something that a lot of us are really looking forward to doing when it feels safe to do that. Thank you for joining us, Amy from Alaska. Arkansas. I can read. Arkansas, that's I've got family living out there. That's definitely where some of my family is from as well. So let's talk a little bit about what people do to protect what they love. And what I'm actually going to do, and this might take a little bit. Let me kind of give you a little more introduction before we get there. Bring my focus back here. So old growth redwood forest is what people come to see. These are the forests that are here because people did take action to protect what they love. So this is a Founder's Grove. This is located in kind of the northern part of Humboldt Redwood State Park. Old growth redwood forests are home to lots of woody debris and logs that are laying on the ground. They're home to dead trees. There's snags here. There's big giant trees, some trees that are over 2,000 years old, and there's some trees that are brand new that have just sprouted from the earth. So there's a lot of different ages, but there's also some very old trees here, and it's the highest amount of biomass of any forest on the planet. So you've got giant logs that are maybe as tall as a semi-truck, and then you've got lots and lots of towering trees that are 35 stories tall. It's really impressive. And this is one spot, and I had pre-recorded this video clip here, so I can just show you the Founder's Tree, which is one of the signature trees here at Founder's Grove. It's a great spot to compare yourself to a redwood against or next to, so just want to demonstrate that. So a lot of people just have no clue from the pictures of how big these trees are unless you see someone up against it, but you really aren't going to get that same sense unless you actually come out here to the old growth redwoods. So let's take a look up the founder's tree, because this tree is 346 feet tall. This tree is vast. And it is not even close to the tallest tree on the planet either, the tallest redwood, which is 380 feet tall. This one is got a ways to go before it gets to that height. Nevertheless, just that towering tree, taller than the Statue of Liberty, it's pretty mesmerizing, pretty impressive. And when you walk into an old-growth redwood forest, when you come in here, the air is cooler in here. It's quieter. These trees are so tall that a lot of animal life is way up towards the top. You've got birds and even some occasionally small mammals, as well as invertebrates and reptiles and, well, more likely amphibians up there. It's quiet because all that stuff is happening way up above us. And there's also just a lot of organisms that aren't going to be able to hang out down here because it's a colder, darker environment than is suitable for a lot of living things. So it's a very unique kind of forest. We call this a temperate rainforest, and basically meaning a cold weather rainforest. Now, old growth redwoods, those old forests, let me come back into focus. Those forests once extended 2 million acres across California. They once covered 2 million acres. Today, we only have about 4.5% of that original forest left intact. That is because of actions of people that in the last 150 years or so. Not all people. This land, Humboldt Redwoods, is on the ancestral land of the of the Sinkyone tribe. Farther north, there's a Yurok tribe, and you also have the Wiyot tribe. There are lots and lots of indigenous communities that have lived in this area for thousands of years, and for them, the redwood trees are important. They're people. They have a personality. They have a spirit. And so the only redwood trees that would be used and still are used by the indigenous people are ones that have fallen down, ones that have already come down to the earth. And then even then, like if a Yurok person was making a canoe, they'd always give the canoe a heart and some lungs and cheeks for personality. So always giving that tree some kind of personality. Now, in more recent times, people begin to arrive to California from other places. People begin to immigrate from the eastern United States, sometimes from Ireland, and from other areas of Europe, and begin to use this forest in a way that they were more familiar with, which was to cut down a lot of these trees to support this growing state. I have family myself that were involved in logging here in the Redwoods, because I have family that have been here since the 1960s, and so my dad worked at a mill, and so there was a lot of kind of a mix in my family of people using redwoods, and then people like myself who are working in parks protecting redwoods. And so a lot of us have some kind of stake here in this redwood forest experience, whether maybe you have a deck or some sort of redwood or other kinds of timber product in your home. And all of that is important for our society to operate, but if we didn't have these old growth redwood forests left, if they had all been cut down, then think of how much more sad it would be to not be able to share that experience of visiting an old growth redwood forest like you can now by visiting our state parks. So it is really important that some people stood tall to protect what they loved and make sure that there was some of this forest left. And so what we're going to do today, and this is going to take a little bit longer, so I hope you'll sit back and relax and enjoy this story. I'm going to tell you a story by reading a story called Luna and Me. This story is about one person in more recent time who stood up for what they loved. And this story is about someone named Julia Butterfly Hill. Julia Butterfly is someone who sat in a redwood tree for 2 years in the late 1990s. Someone that was, while I was living in this area, I remember hearing about this person, and it was a bit controversial because she was on private property. She was on logging land. But as we'll see from the story, and from a little more information that I'll provide you after, it's not unprecedented. It's not the first time. And in fact, some of the redwoods that we enjoy today are here because of similar actions that happened a lot longer. So Julia Butterfly is a person who was pretty young when they climbed up this tree. didn't have a lot of experience in direct action, but was, because of the nature of her family life of traveling around the world, or traveling around the country rather. Her father was a preacher and would go to small towns, and so they were always on the road. She kind of had more of an ability to kind of be in less comfortable conditions. So this story is a children's story, and I really enjoy it, and so I hope you'll enjoy it as well. It takes a little bit to read it, so I'm actually going to, let's see. I'll keep my background. Some colors might be washed out because of the green screen, but hope you'll enjoy. It's by Jenny Sue Kostecki Shaw, and it is called Luna and Me. And it begins like this. Have you ever climbed a tree and stayed there all night? Once there was a girl who lived in a tree for over 2 years. Nearly 1,000 years ago, a redwood tree named Luna sprouted on a hillside. She grew up in a big family with strong roots. Julia was born some 13,000 full moons later. Her family was always moving. Upon arriving in each new town, she scurried off to explore the forest. I'll be home by moonrise, Mom. She whispered her secrets to the animals, and soon the animals trusted Julia. Once, a butterfly rested on her finger all day, which is how she got her nickname, Butterfly. I love the artwork in this book, by the way. It's just amazing. Luna, the redwood tree, held butterflies too, and wise spotted owls, friendly banana slugs, gentle turkey vultures, daring flying squirrels, shy foxes, and a menagerie of forest friends. Luna often reassured the animals, if my arms seem full, it's not a chore. I will gladly grow more. And she always did. One day, Butterfly wandered into an ancient cathedral of redwoods. Her heart beat wildly. Thump, a thump, a thump, a thump. Hello, a curious butterfly called up into Luna. Is anyone home? Broken branches stuck out of Luna's trunk like porcupine quills, and her side was tagged with an X. The redwood quivered with excitement, the way she always did when a new visitor arrived. Luna thought, do you like to climb trees? Give me a try, oh please. After a flutter, or all a flutter, Butterfly called out, here I come! When she reached a comfortable perch, Butterfly introduced herself. I am Butterfly, and you, Luna, are a ladder to the moon. Luna smiled and sighed. Welcome, little butterfly. You're brave to have ventured up so high. Butterfly marveled at Luna's view of the world. She spied rivers twisting this way and that past Luna's countless brothers and sisters and cousins. But when she looked closer, Butterfly realized that the blue X meant on Luna's trunk. The tree would soon be chopped down and harvested. Butterfly's spirit wilted. She knew that people needed wood for building houses and furniture and for making paper and books. But trees make oxygen too. Oxygen we breathe, she thought. Animals need trees for their homes, and without their roots, the mountainsides can wash away in heavy rains. Don't trees have a right to just be? Suddenly, an idea sprouted deep inside Butterfly. If I stay with Luna, no one will cut her down. Luna thought, then I will live with another 1,000 years. But Butterfly would need a lot of support. Her friends were eager to help. Heave, ho, up you go! They hoisted her food, water, a stove, fuel, a tarp. She would need to tightly pack her waste in bags until her friends returned to haul it away. That night, she slept under a tapestry of stars. The next morning, Butterfly awoke to voices far below. How can we help? You are strong. We believe in you. Do you need anything? More granola? You're not allowed to be here. Go home. This is our tree. She'll come down when it storms. Up top, Butterfly held tight to what she believed in, Luna. But living 180 feet high in a tree wasn't easy. Her treehouse was the size of a sandbox. She cooked all her food in one small pot, and there wasn't a bathroom. She had to get creative. She collected rainwater to drink and bathe in. At first, raindrops popped like popcorn on the tarp roof, lulling her to sleep. But soon, the refreshing rains grew to fierce storms. Oh no! Hang on tight! It may rain all day and all nights! Butterfly could barely hold on. Lightning struck all around, and thunder shook her courage. I want to go home, she yelled, but the howling wind swept her voice away. Butterfly climbed inside her cocoon and drifted to sleep. In her dream, Luna spoke to her. I'm frightened, Luna. I will hold you till the sky is calm and blue. When she awoke, she discovered the sun, her friends, and her wings. Lots of banana slugs and redwood trees. Butterfly kicked off her shoes and spent the day turning her tree house into a home. To exercise, she climbed barefoot to the top of Luna every morning. With sticky, sappy feet, she crawled like a spider up and down Luna's trunk. She explored each branch and met all her mates, her tree mates, and still there was more. Deep within Luna's split trunk, Butterfly discovered a magical cave. It was alive. She found ferns, huckleberries, furry green moss, tiny mushrooms, bugs, chickadees, hummingbirds, chipmunks, and even a fox. This is so true. If you go to any old growth redwood, they've got all kinds of these sorts of things living within them. Luna, Butterfly chirped, you are a forest within a forest. Luna beamed even brighter. Butterfly knew what she had to do. Her friends gathered supplies she would need. Solar-powered phone, check. Hand-cranked solar radio, check. Books about ancient forests, check. Duct tape, check. Pens and paper for writing letters, check. Butterfly shared stories of Luna and the forest to anyone who would listen. And many people did. Busy days whirred and blurred into weeks and months, a whole year. And then another year. Butterfly worried, will Luna ever be safe? But then finally, on the 378th day, a message arrived. Butterfly, Luna is safe. No one will cut her down. Love, your friends. P.S. You can come down now. And as her toes touched the soft earth, Butterfly cried, we did it, Luna. But she didn't want to leave her friend. Butterfly hugged Luna goodbye and heard Luna's voice in her heart. As you grow strong and tall towards the sun, remember to bend with the wind, and when you dream and dance in the rain, I'll be here doing the same. The end. So I just read to you Luna and Me by Jenny Sue Kostecki Shah. And this book is loosely based on the true story of Julia Butterfly Hill sitting on a tree. This tree was named Luna. It was located on the former lumber company, Pacific Lumber Company, on their land, on the top of a high mountain. And it was an act of civil disobedience. She stood on a tree. She was trespassing. But as a result, that tree actually ended up becoming protected and is now managed by Sanctuary Forest. The Sanctuary Forest is a nonprofit that protects little preserves of ancient old growth forest in Humboldt County, mostly. I think maybe Mendocino as well. There is a book about Luna, or about this tree, written by Julia Butterfly Hill, The Legacy of Luna, if you'd like to learn more about it. That tree got protected. However, the year after she set foot back on the ground, it was vandalized. It was cut 2/3 of the way through by a chainsaw. But through some pretty ingenuitive work, the people found it, and a forester was able to help, and a scientist, I believe, was able to help basically put a Band-Aid on it, just fasten these brackets to hold it up. And that tree is still alive and thriving today, 20 years later. So that was able to, that was a successful recovery, and that tree is still standing tall, still protected. So again, this is not the first time that people have done this, including in our park, in Humboldt Redwood State Park. So this is someone named Laura Mahan. Laura Mahan was the one of the head members, I believe the president of the Women's Save the Redwoods League up here or at least the Eureka chapter up here in Humboldt County. And she was someone who was really concerned about the protection of redwoods. And at one point in 1924, when the Save the Redwoods League was in discussions of protecting a part of a redwood grove from being cut down, her and her husband discovered that, or caught wind that the company was beginning to cut down the trees, even though they were in talks to protect it. So her and her husband went down to the action, and she stood in front of the logging activity to prevent them from cutting down those trees. Well, her husband dashed up to Eureka to get a court injunction to have them stop cutting down those trees. So she stood in front of timber action even back in 1924, almost 100 years ago. So because of that, we have some of the redwood forests that we have in Humboldt Redwood State Park. Today, there's 17,000 acres of old growth redwoods in Humboldt Redwood State Park. The park is 53,000 acres large, so there's lots of other habitats and ecosystems within that park. It's, I believe, the third largest state park in California. So people standing tall to protect what they love is one way that people demonstrate their appreciation and their love and their care for others or other environments. And it doesn't always have to be a direct action that you do to show your love and care. And sometimes it's just something that you think and you remember and reflect on. So if you think about, I asked you that question, what would you do to protect what you love? You know, like, it doesn't always have to be an action. Maybe just visiting some of our parks and visiting these places and learning more about them and studying them and maybe sharing them with other people is another way that you can demonstrate your love for a place. And maybe that can also help to foster a conservation and preservation ethic. For me, if my parents hadn't taken me camping out in the forest all the time and allowed me the freedom to explore nature and share what they care about, then I might not be in the job that I am right now, being able to share the story of the redwoods with you. So I just want to get to a few questions. I know I've been going on for a long time. It's been kind of fun. So let's see what we got here. So a question about a drive-through tree. So in our state parks, we actually don't have any trees that we can drive through. We tend not to like to put holes in our trees. However, there are some trees in other private areas that do, and as those are intact. The one that you might be thinking about that fell down was actually in Sequoia, somewhere, I think either Calaveras big trees or somewhere in the Sequoias, which are in the Sierra Nevada mountains. And now let's see if there was another question. How do you maintain the health of the redwoods in the face of a changing climate? So that is a real challenge because it's such a bigger issue. Now, the climate is being studied. The Save the Redwoods League has a climate change initiative. They've got little weather stations on top of select redwood trees throughout the redwood region. They're finding evidence that there is less fog in some areas than there used to be. But the question is, how is that affecting the redwoods? And it's a little bit inconclusive. I'd ask you to check out the SaveTheRedwoodsLeague.org or the Save the Redwoods League website. I think if you just Google Save the Redwoods League, you can find a lot of information about their climate initiative, which is pretty interesting. But it seems that redwoods have actually in the last 30 years been growing a little bit faster than they have before. But just because the redwoods might be doing okay, it's not all just about the trees. A forest is made up of trees and all the interlinking organisms and entities within that ecosystem as well. So just because the redwoods are doing maybe a little better doesn't mean that other organisms living on and in and around the redwoods are doing necessarily better. If there's less water, or there's higher chances of drought, or maybe more devastating wildfires, that might be a challenge. Fortunately, redwoods are very resilient against those things. So I don't have a full answer to you about how, about exactly what people are doing to sort of protect the redwoods in the face of climate change, but I would say that learning and studying more about it is important. And of course, you know, a lot of our actions are probably going to be more immediate actions. You know, how do we protect the redwoods from other effects? So there's other issues that might be you know, either whether it's the challenge of development or making sure that you protect the redwoods that are already here, or even some of the redwoods that are like second growth forests where the trees were cut down and now are growing back. Some of those redwoods are maybe not as healthy because the conditions are maybe a little bit too artificial, and so we might have to do some other actions to kind of manage those forests. Bringing fire back to redwood forests in these surrounding areas is also something that's really important, because for thousands of years, the indigenous tribes in these areas have used fire as a way to manage the forest, and so state parks also uses some level of fire management as well in some of the forest lands. So Karen, you're saying that you have a mixed forest of old and second growth trees. Can you talk about the amount of time it takes for forests to attain old growth characteristics such as standing snags, mixed trees, etc.? Oh, that's a great question. So old growth forests are, when we talk about old growth forests, we're talking about, I like to use the acronym OWLS, old trees, woody debris, layers, and snags. Old, woody, layers, and snags. So the characteristics of an old growth forest. So it really depends. So in your area, where in Sonoma County, you've got lots of timber harvesting that happened over the last century and a half. It could take hundreds of years. It could take thousands of years, depending on how much the land has been managed since then. So if you want to learn more about some of the ways that we are managing some of our second growth forests, the ones that have kind of grown back after logging, you might look into the Save the Redwoods League website again, where they talk about the Redwoods Rising, which is a restoration effort that is happening, a multi-agency restoration effort to kind of bring some of our second growth forests towards old growth characteristics. But it can take a long time, because you need trees that have been around for hundreds or even thousands of years to have the habitat, like holes, like fire caves, or big branches, reiterated trunks, all these sorts of features that you only see on old trees that have been damaged a lot by the elements, that have all these great characteristics for soil to develop and for ferns and plants and things to grow on the branches of these trees. So I would say, to your question, Karen, that if you're down there in Sonoma County, there's a lot of oak woodlands as well. And so maybe the old growth characteristics, it takes a little less time for them to get to that, but other conditions have to also work out. For example, down in Sonoma County, I know a lot of oaks. Well, oaks are needing other animals or other organisms to help oaks regenerate, whether you need squirrels and other animals to take acorns and bury them in places so that you get new oak trees. So how intact is your ecosystem? And that I'm not exactly sure the answer to. But you mentioned that Austin Creek State Park next to Armstrong Redwoods. Oh, we're talking about camping. Okay, there's a question about camping. So right now, camping is closed. So there is right now the day use areas and parks are opening back up. You have day use areas that are opening up and parking lots that are opening up, and then gradually moving towards campgrounds and moving towards other things being opened up. But if you want to kind of get more information about that process, I'd probably recommend going either to the state park website, which is parks.ca.gov, or going on to maybe even checking out california.gov and just kind of getting what's happening with the state government. So we're following those guidelines. And so as far as I know, in our state parks, the campgrounds are still closed, but we are opening up day use areas in place. But if you're going to go visit a place, remember, there's people like me that are going to be out in the field, probably talking to you. And so if you go, just make sure to be respectful of our safety as well. So if you're going to talk to an interpreter, you're going to talk to someone out in the field, and make sure to either cover your face or stand 6 feet away. That's really important for our safety as well. So, especially if you're coming from a faraway place, we still are telling everyone to maintain social distancing when you're out on the trails. You may feel okay and feel healthy, but it's always important to respect the boundaries of other people as well. And a lot of people want to make sure that a lot of people are concerned about their health. And so I want to also just give a shout out to all of you who have really been considering other people's need for safety as well. Just because you or I might feel like we are not too at risk, anything like that, we want to make sure that we're not being a vector for other people's harm or anything like that. So just a plug for that. So make sure to keep everyone feeling safe and be careful when you're out there. And with that, I've gone for a long time. This is probably the longest Facebook Live that I've done. And I want to thank you all for participating, for joining, for jumping off. And I hope that you get a chance to get outdoors, get a chance to get some fresh air, and think about the people or the places or the things that you love. Think about what you're doing to show that. And whether it's just sending someone a text, whether it's just maybe writing it down, thinking about it, and reflecting on it. I hope that you are able to connect with those that you care about and in whatever way you can. And I hope that I'll see you on the trail sometime soon. Thank you, everybody. I'm signing off. I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.